right, man. Welcome to the cookout, man. It's your boy, the Alex Mack. Got your boy DapperDom here,
what
man.
Up, people?
Hey, when we left you, man, we took a little break at the cookout, but DapperDom was putting on a master class here about life coaching, just really breaking down a little bit behind his background, you know, what got him into it, kind of his calling and passion behind it, and really talking, you know, a lot about, you know, the kids, man, and we've talked about this probably a little bit in a couple of different episodes and what he's doing, but we just gonna jump right back into it, man, and get this thing going. So talk a little bit about, you know, we were talking about, you know, how you're working, you know, and you have that connection between what you're doing as a former athlete and training and working with athletes now. Take us back to the beginning. Imagine you're Dom Wilkins, DapperDom. Somebody calls, says, hey, my son is X, Y, and Z. Yeah. We heard, you know, about you and what you're doing with this. We want to get him, you know, linked up with you. How does that conversation go from getting a client and taking them in? Let's walk through some of those pieces.
Yeah, so for, you know, we'd have that initial conversation on like, all right, what is your kid struggling with? Because you know, typically it'd be like something they're struggling with, like whether it's self-image, whether that's sports related, like I'm trying to get them from a better ball handler, or a better shooter, or just a better defender. So like where they are versus where they're trying to be. And so that'll be like that first initial conversation. And then, like I said, like that opening the relationship is not about selling yourself. It's more about empowering that potential client on, yeah, you might be here now, but I can help you get to here. And so offering like my program as a resource and, you know, telling them like, I believe you can get here. And if we built that synergy, you know what I'm saying? Like they might say like, yes, I want to bring you along this journey, and we might, and I'll kind of tell them like 12 weeks, we can meet, you know, once a week. You can pay as you go, or you can pay up front with a discount, like just how that conversation goes. And so that first meeting, is almost like a more conversation on that initial opening relationship. So let's take the example that you just gave, or I can run through a couple more. But you just said like, all right, my kid is having trouble in basketball, like struggling in shooting, struggling with dribbling, but then also too that's hurting their self-confidence in themselves. Because like, you know, physical plays a huge part on the mental. Like I tell people all the time, man, I go to the gym more for my mental state than I do my physical. And so in that conversation, we revisit what's our desired outcome. You know what I mean? And like as a life coach, I don't try to put absolutes on anything. Like I do know, like you might say, like we talked about, I want to lose 20, 30 pounds. So like that is an absolute goal you want to get to. But I'm not going to say, hey, by the end of these 12 weeks, you're going to be 20 to 30 pounds lighter. Or I'm not going to say, hey, at the end of these 12 weeks, you're going to be able to dribble the ball like this, that, and the third. But I will tell you, like, we'll put a plan together. And so one, we'll revisit like what's our initial goal. Then we'll talk about what's that motivating factor. I'm almost like that why behind the why that we talked about with the weight loss piece. And so it's, I want to be a better ball handler and shooter because I'm only playing 6 minutes a game. And coach said, you know, if I get better at this, I could potentially be play more, or even potentially be a starter. So like that's my motivating factors. I want to play more. I want to start. So that's my why behind the why. And then we talk about, all right, like clearing, like one, what's my anchors? So when I said like, I'm anchoring almost like that emotional state. And if you didn't listen to the last episode, go back and listen to the last episode where I say it's my job in the opening relationship conversation is to tie your goal back to an emotional state. You know what I'm saying? I'm back to a feeling, like how you feel about yourself. And since we're talking about like kids and teenagers, like they have a lot of feelings, they have a lot of emotions. So, all right, so let's anchor that motivation, that why behind the why. As if you're playing more and you're scoring more buckets or you're starting, like what does that do for your self-confidence? Like, where do you see yourself? And so they start talking about like, I'll feel really good about myself if I'm averaging, 12 minutes a game, you know, if I'm scoring 8 points, doing this, like I see myself. And so you try to tie that emotional feeling to almost like not a vision board, but we talked about in the last episode on do we share our goals with people? And I'm a huge component of writing things down.
Yeah.
One, just because for my spiritual people out there, the Bible tells us, hey, write the vision and make it plain. You know what I mean? And so writing that vision and making it plain, that now I know where I'm trying to get to. But then for my people who not spiritual, research shows that you're 42% more likely to achieve your goal if you write it down.
Wow. That's okay.
Yeah. Now that 42 goes to 76 if I tell somebody. If I tell people to hold me accountable.
Man.
So by telling me as your life coach to hold you accountable, you just went up to success rate of 76% on achieving that goal. You know what I mean? And so so we're anchoring that by one, I'm telling you, write it down, like what type of ball handler you want to be. So like I've used Julie Lloyd, you know, we can use Steph. Steph handled that rock too. Well, SGA handles that rock well. You know what I mean? So it's like, you might say, I want to handle the rock like. So like, although like it's good to have like a vision and people like you want to be like, you know, commercial, I want to be like Mike. Of course, there's only one Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's only one Shaquille O'Neal, there's only one Bill Gates, but like, it's okay to aspire to be like somebody. Absolutely. Because here's the thing. In aspiring to be like a Tom Brady or anybody that's great that's ever done anything, aspiring to be like Martin Luther King, like who you might not become Martin Luther King, but who you become in that process is so much better than where you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so now we're anchoring that to feelings, to a vision, like just whatever senses, like depending on whatever the goal is, you know what I'm saying? Like whatever sense I can tie to that goal, like it just ties it, anchors it more in your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can tie it into, we were just talking about basketball, but you might say you want to get to a certain level in your career because if I get here, I'm able to take my wife on vacations because my wife loves to travel. That brings her happiness.
Okay.
My sons, I get to show them parts of the world that I never saw at their age. Like you're tying it, always trying to tie it back to something bigger than yourself.
Right.
And the reason why you also want to do that too is because at some point you want to give up. You know what I mean? And so you're going to want to give up. So your goal and your dream has to be bigger than you. So yeah, you might want to start and you might want to play this many minutes, you might want to score this many points, but also too, you need to tie that back to, if I'm the best version of myself as a player on the court, that's going to help my team even more and help us prepare for victory. You know what I'm saying? So now you're not only tying it to yourself, but now I'm helping my team get better. You know what I'm saying? I'm helping others around me get better. Okay. So always tie it to something bigger than yourself. And then we talk about like cleaning out the clutter. So what are the things you're telling yourself on why you can't accomplish that goal? So as a ball handler, you might be like, well, I don't, like I got school, I got other sports I play, like I don't have time to do that. Like, and some of that might be true.
Right.
Some of it might not be. Or even an example used about like, I want to lose 20 to 30 pounds. Hey, well, I've gotten to 15 before and then
just
plateau. You know what I'm saying? And so you're telling yourself, I'm never going to lose more than 15 pounds. I can't get to 20, 30. So cleaning out that clutter and talking about what obstacles do you see that's in your way from getting there. And then we can have a conversation about, are they real or not? You know what I'm saying? Have a conversation, are they real or not? And if they are real, and I read something today, oh my gosh. It was talking about there's so many hours in a week. Is 156 out 7 times
24?
24.
Let's see here, you know.
Is 150.
Let me spot check you.
I'm mad, bro.
It's all right. That's why we got to 168.
168. Look, so they say it's 168 hours in a week. I think they say like 40 of that goes to work, 56 goes to to sleep.
Okay.
And then you got 72 other hours.
Wow.
So when you talk about I can't do something,
a lot of time.
That's a lot of time, you know, and so if you're talking about school, then like, hey, how long am I in school? How long am I in practice? Like, make it practical. I'm always talking about making goals practical. Okay. So we might go through, what does your typical day look like?
And chart those out.
Like, what are the gaps? All right, what are the things that I'm doing that's really not helping my goal? You know what I mean? Like, how do I get to my goal? Like, how do I remove those? You know what I mean? And it's like, it could be like, I get out of school at 4, and then I don't have practice to 5:30. So what are you doing in that hour and a half? You know what I mean?
I think it goes a little way, like the last episode we said the whole, like, every time you say yes to something, you say no. So it's like, hey, even if you're saying, I'm going to hop on a video game for that hour, and then we got to get to practice, it's like, okay, if you're doing that every day, that's 5 hours right there. Even if you took half of that and say, I'm going to put that towards, half, then to say, I'm still going to play video games, and then the other half is going to be some dribbling, drills and stuff like that,
So my job is to make sure all the goals you have, you can measure them, and then take practical steps to them. Okay. You know what I mean? Because, we might have this huge vision, man, of having one day 138,000 subscribers or whatever. And right now we're at 70 something. So that might seem insurmountable. Yeah. But if we say, and do that in 2 years, 3 years, whatever that time frame we put on it, and then you break it down, so that means we need to have this many each month. You know what I'm saying? Some months is going to be more than others, but make whatever your goals are, make them practical. Yeah. All right, make them where I can break them down and I can actually achieve them. Not saying don't put things out there that seem like stretch yourself, but also as you stretch yourself, make them practical. I like to say small steps, great distances. Yeah. So in those, I'm taking small steps, and then I look up. I was like, man, I just walked 10 miles. Yeah. I would just put one foot in front of the other. Yeah. Till I got there.
I like what you're really talking about. It as I hear it is embracing the journey, and I think a lot of time in our society, and we talked about it with the social media piece in episode 1 of this is. Everyone just skips to the finished results, right? And it's like, man, it took something for me to be the best boxer in the world, to be the best, have the biggest business in the world. Like, you don't know the times when I might have to miss a school play or I didn't sleep for a few nights because I was trying to get stuff done. Yeah. And so I think a lot of times it's just you get this nice glossy finished result of like, oh man, Alex, they on a yacht and they doing this, and it actually, I don't know if I've ever said this on our podcast before, but one of the biggest inspirations, and I saw one of their postings yesterday about being New York Times bestsellers, but the platform's called Earn Your Leisure. Okay. 2 black brothers. I think the post I saw yesterday said they started 6 years ago. And one of the posts that I saw, this was probably about 2-3 years ago when we were talking about ours, is the writing it down. They had a sheet of paper and they have that post of everything they wrote out that they needed to do to get their podcast started. And then they have a picture of the 2 of them with microphones and iPhones and a whiteboard with the topics they were going to talk about for the day. 6 years later, they have multiple platforms. They have a InvestFest platform that they do in Atlanta, and they're New York Times bestsellers, right? Yeah. And so it took me back to what you were talking about, is them documenting the process that they took to get there, man. And that's something that has, I think it as a person, it gives you that much more gratitude when you can be like, man, it's not about being viral. People say viral in terms of social media, but I think it's almost, we want to be viral in what we do in life. Yeah, for sure. Right? We want to be like, okay, I did this and now I'm looking like this, and now I don't want to, like, That take me back to some. Maybe it's another episode. That take me back to this whole Ozempic thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I feel like we want this viral, it's that instant gratification of like, boom, I did this and now I can see results right away.
Not saying that Ozempic works or doesn't work, because you clearly see people losing weight. But I'm gonna tell y'all what.
Come on.
Research shows that a healthy rate of losing weight is 1 to 2 pounds per week.
Yes.
That way, like, you're not losing just muscle mass and your body's
absolutely
transforming in a natural way. And so when you do just drop those pounds, you know what I'm saying? Like when you unwrap that Christmas present, you know you know what I mean? But the industry all ties to get, sorry to get sidetracked, but like it all ties to, because now you see probably like Skims and Spanx, their sales and so probably went up because you see all these things like on TikTok shop of, hey, I can hide my belly. You know what I'm saying? Because I've lost weight, but it don't look good.
It ain't wrapped right.
It ain't wrapped right. So look, let me put skim it up.
Body makeup. No,
Now,
but I think that's I think that's like you talked about, that journey, embracing it. I even call it, you know, and people say, hey, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So it does seem, you look at it and you're like, man, that's so big and so huge, but it's like, okay, one, like you said, one step at a time, one bite at a time.
Yeah. And I like to, in each session also too, start with what's going well. You know what I mean? So, because we like to sometimes as a society focus on the negative versus the positive. You know what I mean? And like an example of that could be on this person who's on a journey to lose 20, 30 pounds, and we set out a goal to work out 3 times a week. 3 times a week, say we just say it for an hour. So, and in the conversation, I might be like, hey, what's going well? You know, and they might say, well, I didn't make it to the gym 3 times this week. I did go once. I said, well, let's celebrate that one. Because some people who didn't go at all. And like, how was your workout? You know what I mean? And so we talked through, hey, I had a good workout, this, that, and the third. Talk about what's going well. And then I'll ask the question, you know, well, what happened of why we didn't make it to 2 to 3?
Okay.
And then we go through that, well, stayed up late watching TV and I slept in, you know what I mean? And so help them dissect where they came short. You know what I mean? Always make it practical and like, how can I be better? You know what I mean? And so always starting that conversation on what went well. And then I might provide information or advice on, hey, maybe don't watch an hour TV. Maybe it's 30 minutes. So if you know like that's your favorite show, don't watch your favorite show because you know you're going to stay up. Turn on something that's just background noise to help you fall asleep. Go ahead.
I almost think about it, what I remember at work, a mentor had taught me years ago, like it's almost like the feedback sandwich, right? Like where you, so for those of you who haven't heard of it, like you start with something positive, you put you can call it negative, opportunity, things we need to work on in the middle, and then you end with something, you know, so your bread is the positives, and then, so it's like, hey, we start good, put it in, put something that we want to work on in the middle layer, and then we end with something good as well.
And so what I would call my sandwich is, one, I said we start with what went well.
Okay.
And then we have the sandwich and we're having conversations on why we didn't make it 3 times, like how can we be better next week. But then we end it, like what I like to say, like depending on like our conversation or the flow and like whatever week was, like what was your aha moment from our conversation, or aha moment or something that you can take away from our conversation that's positive. To be like, okay, now I got an action plan and I feel good about it. So that's like my sandwich. It's like what went well, whatever you want to put on there, mustard, ham, cheese, turkey, like whatever the bad, and then we're gonna finish it with some good. So like that's what that sandwich looks like. And then we talk about like it's a journey and failure going to happen. And my job is to, one, help you see when those roadblocks are going to occur. And for me, most of the time, it happens. First of all, it happens in the first conversation. So from our initial conversation, like the opening the relationship conversation, to you say, yeah, man, I want us to do this together. And so, all right, we'll schedule for next week. Something could have happened in that very first week. They'd be like, 30 pounds seems insurmountable to me, or 20 pounds seem insurmountable to me, or being able to dribble like this seems like it's going to take a lot of work. I don't know if I want to do it. And so, like, one, I have to almost bring that reassurance and empowerment to that first conversation. And then you start seeing it maybe in week 5 or week 6. So already, like in my conversation in week 4, we're going to discuss what's going well, talk about things that we're doing to accomplish this goal. But then also, too, I kind of want to let you know, like, hey, here's where I typically see people stumble. An example of that is January 1st, everybody in the gym, right?
Yeah.
Gym is packed. By first week of February, mid-February, you start seeing
And taper off.
it taper off. And how many weeks is that?
That's just 4 right there.
Yeah, like 4,
Yeah, 4,
5,
5,
6,
yeah.
So you start seeing that, and so like my job is also too to help you get out your way, because, like I said, failure is going to happen, and so you start getting to a point, and then week 5 or 6 you see it, and then you see it at week 10 or 11. Yeah, so like it's almost like this 4 to 5 week increment cycle is like, man, I've been doing it. And it could be that life just be lifing, or you might just hit a plateau.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's like, what got you to 15 pounds not going to get you to 20. So I'm going to help you switch it up.
Right.
And so like I like to break it down as in like it's 80% transformation, 20% like teaching and education. Like I'm not supposed to provide all this information every time. It's more about helping you have a different experience, because our experiences shape our beliefs.
Okay.
And so
yeah, absolutely.
And so her experience was your experience, he or she experience was I got to 15 pounds before. I can't get to 20 because that's what you believe, because that's been your experience. I'm here to create a new experience, and it could be we got from 15 to 16, but you've never got to 16 before, so now I've created a new experience that you broke through 15. So now you might be like, oh, I can get to 20.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm supposed to help you create a new experience, which creates new beliefs in yourself.
How much do you, in having these conversations and the things you see, how much do you think it's motivation versus discipline? And because I've heard a quote before, I don't remember it exactly, but it basically just talks about like how, discipline is there when your motivation runs out, right? And so, because you can be like, man, I want to look like this on the beach. I want to have my abs ready for the beach. But if it feels like after a while that motivation will taper off for whatever reason. But when you have that discipline, it's like, okay, I'm gonna still be in there. Like, what do you think about those juxtaposing motivation versus discipline?
Motivation is almost like a dopamine shot. You know what I'm saying? It's a dopamine, like, oh, I'm ready to go, this, that, and the third. But then my feelings set in because I stayed up too late watching that show, so I don't feel like getting up in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Where discipline is, it doesn't matter what time I went to bed. I said I'm going to do this, so I'm going to get up and do it.
Right.
Success is boring, bro. Like, discipline is boring to do the same thing. Like I even tell people, like, I struggle with, like, meal prepping. Like, I see people who eat the same thing for lunch every day for a week, and then they might switch. Like, that's discipline. That's boring, but that's consistency. You know what I'm saying? And success comes with consistency, and so it's okay to be motivated. It's okay for me to say, all right, man, have a playlist to kind of get you going. But also, too, within that, like, it has to be a routine. Like, I tell my kids that I train, what's your routine before the game? They'll be like, oh, I don't know. I just maybe sometimes listen to music. I said, but, like, what song gets you going? Or what are some I have them write down affirmations, and I say, put one in your locker, put one on your mirror or something, in your room, Put one in a notebook. If they got Chromebooks and stuff now, put it on your screensaver, because the more I see these affirmations or things that I want to be, how I see myself, my mind starts telling me that's who I am. You know what I mean? And like we talk about like the power of the tongue, like what you tell yourself, like you said, like you're afraid to share your goals with somebody because they might, I almost curse.
It's about to be tired, but like that uncle get too much liquor to cook out.
But they might be like, that's not realistic. So then a couple people start doubting what you're saying and telling you that. Now you start questioning what you believed. Right. And so like it has to be, your goals has to be rooted in principle. And so that's why I talk about like that anchor piece. Like it has to be anchored by something that not only you want to accomplish, but it has to be bigger than yourself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? It has to be in root. Like you, food scientist, man, I want to create this new instant pasta that tastes like PF Chang's, but at a reasonable price, because I want somebody who in this economic status to be able to enjoy the same taste and pleasure that somebody does in this economic status. So your goal as a food scientist is tied to something bigger than yourself, because if you might be like, oh man, I just want to do this because I want to create something new. At some point you might hit that wall and be like, man, I done tried this sometime, bro, forget it. You know what I'm saying? It ain't that important to me. So it always has to be tied to something bigger than yourself. So I have my kids or people write down, all right, like, who are you doing this for? Give me 3 to 5 people that you're doing this for. And so in those moments where you feel like quitting, I can't quit because I'm doing this for somebody bigger than myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you done dropped a lot on us today, man. As we get ready to, wrap this up, break down the cookout, give out these to-go plates. And give us like 2 things that you feel like you want people to leave with, hearing from a life coach here today at the cookout.
Yeah. Number one, man, it's okay to have initial goals, but like I said, we're always evolving. So you will see it. Like I said, we talk about, like, even when I start getting to like week 10 or 11, like your goals might get bigger. You know what I mean? And so like, hey, I got to 20 pounds, I got to 30 pounds, I want to get to 40. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, I'm scoring 6 points a game now. Hey, I want to get to 10. You know what I mean? Like, be okay with evolving. Be okay with failure.
Yeah. Yes.
Be okay with saying, hey, I want to do this, and not afraid to fail if I don't get there, because who you're becoming from point A to point B, somewhere in that process, you've gotten better as a human being in some aspect of your life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I would say on my to-go plate, what I love about this platform is, hopefully you guys see it as this one that is fostering a culture of learning and curiosity, man. And I think being able to hear about new things that growing up and even being an adult, not knowing that much of, like, there's resources out there.
Yeah, for sure.
I want people to understand that there's resources out there for whatever it is that they need. Don't feel alone, and utilize these resources that we have, man.
And also, too, my life coaches, please check yourself. Like, understand when you're having conversations with a potential client and you've started that relationship, and then they start bringing stuff up that's like, oh, this is a little more deep rooted.
That, you know what? I thought it was. That's what I was.
I need you to go see somebody else.
I'm glad you said that, and I was going to say that. I was going to bottle that up and save it, maybe, for when we get a guest on here in terms of understanding when you're not in over your head, but it's just like, hey, this is not
my lane. This
is not my lane. Let me, because I feel like that's appropriate, versus just being like, man, I'm gonna get this money, and then you leave somebody. So that's definitely something I want us to come back to in a future episode in terms of having a panel and talking about those different things.
And there's a balance of understanding, like, you want your clients to eventually leave you and be able to say,
yes,
you've equipped me with enough tools to, no matter whether my goals change or not, I can accomplish them because you've helped me and given me some tools.
Yes.
And because then here's the thing, that's your marketing, because your friends or colleagues or somebody might see you was like, man, I see a change in you. Like, why is that?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hey, I got this life coach, Dom. He helped me.
Yeah.
That's your marketing. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, I tell my
Word
kids,
of mouth.
yeah, like, hey, how you go perform? Like, I know I got several clients off of parents saying, hey, somebody told me you worked with this person, their kid grew this much, not just on the court, but like mentally. Can you work with my kid?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just that you see it. You know what I'm saying? You see the confidence grow in these kids and on and off the court. So parents see that too. You know what I'm saying? They're around, they see these kids the same age as their kids, be like, oh, who they were in the 7th grade now? Who they were in the 8th?
Yeah,
versus 9th? Like, so yeah,
Man,
so
I love it.
be able to just say, hey, that's not my lane. Like, I think
No, that's
somebody
critical.
else, yeah, that's very critical.
That's critical.
And that's where that passion and heart piece come from. Because
Yeah.
if you are just doing it for brand,
You gonna
you
take
might
it.
try to, well, let me Google some things to see can I
Yeah.
help this person versus,
I hate that.
yeah.
Hey, what we need our people to do, Dapper Dom?
Y'all
What we
already
need them
know,
to do?
man. Like, share, subscribe. Each one, reach one. Hey, vibe with us. Hey, I think we're putting some polls out there, which they're probably already out there. But if you haven't
Tap in.
tapped in, go back and tap into those polls that we're putting out there if they're still out there. Talk to us. I told you, we talk back. Let us know things that you guys want us to talk about on this platform. Like you said, like, this the cookout. You know, all topics are welcome at the cookout, even things that we should be talking about at the cookout that we don't.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not just, we like to talk about sports and spades, playing spades, dominoes, and music, but let's go deeper in conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, remember at the cookout, we putting more than food on your plate. We out.
We out.